Suckers and peppers, suckers and tomatoes. Topping peppers and trimming suckers. What do we do? We're going to talk about that right here on the Backyard Gardens podcast.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about all things gardening. We are your hosts, Ben in Batavia, and you can find me gardening in the country.
And you'll find me gardening in the city. Get ready as we dig deep into this
wonderful world of gardening, where we learn to grow and grow for change. All right, everybody, if you'd like to support the show, check out the link for Patreon below. You'll get one extra mini-sode a month and the Community Gardens podcast every month. So check that out. T-shirts are on sale on the link below. BYG Spring is the code, 25% off. All T-shirts, cups, mugs, everything, stickers, you name it, it's on sale. So check it out. Okay. Are you ready? I hate this subject. Suckers, tomato suckers. They confused me for so long.
It fits in the extra steps that I really don't want to do with my garden. Like, it fits in there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it does. So to be clear, this is a listener question. Let me pull it up and I will read everybody the question. And this is from Patreon, excuse me. I hate the way that we have to say it differently than it seems. It just rolls off the tongue, right? Okay, so it goes. Cassie says, I'm working on my first garden from seeds. I've planted both pepper seeds and tomato seeds. In researching, I've come across the idea of suckers and when to or not to cut them off. I'm supposed to cut them for tomatoes, but encourage them for peppers by topping the plant, right? Help. I'm confused. I don't want to be made a, quote, sucker. My first try gardening. I would love an episode on this topic of to prune or not to prune to encourage growth. Well, guess what? We're giving you the episode right now. So, yeah. So, we really have two different topics here.
Yeah, it's the same terminology used with two different vegetables for two different sets of results, right?
Yeah, I've never heard of suckers for peppers.
I've never heard of it referred to as suckers, but I'm pretty certain I'm connected to what she's describing.
Yes, I think so. I'm going to say right now, before we even dig into this, that this is part of the world overcomplicating gardening. And it's a shame because you have a new gardener who is thoroughly confused. And there's really no reason why they should be, but the world is just overcomplicating something pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think just to kick off, you don't have to do either.
That's what I was going to say.
Let the plants do what they're going to do. Yeah. So there's no requirement to do either of these techniques. I didn't trim a sucker for 10 years. And I think I answered her back directly. Actually, no, I did. And I was like, hey, don't worry about it. I didn't trim a sucker for 10 years and I got plenty of tomatoes. So there's that. You know, I didn't top a pepper plant for years and got plenty of peppers. Yeah.
So it's not even like it's a necessary, but I feel like people just make it seem like you have to do it. You have to prune the suckers. So we're going to talk about it.
Let's own a little bit of that feeling and kind of that messaging, because we talk about productive gardens a lot on our podcast, right? Like the ways to make your garden most productive. And there is, at least for peppers, I'd say the idea of topping them off and then kind of leading to them bushing out, right? That's the goal of getting more peppers off of that pepper plant. So it kind of feeds into this idea of like you want this plant to be its most productive, and this is a way to get there.
Right. But topping peppers is not eliminating suckers. So that is a pruning technique. And do you want me to get into it and just explain it real quick?
Well, I mean, I think in her description, she said she understands that she's supposed to prune suckers for tomatoes, but what she's calling suckers for peppers, she should be encouraging, right? So she's she's not saying that she wants to eliminate them for peppers, but she's asking
why
there's
to
a
encourage
difference.
suckers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, okay, let me break down the whole theory behind trimming. So if you don't know, now you know.
Break it down. I'm getting back into my spring mode, man.
There, I could tell. I love it. I love it, kind of. So if you don't know, now you know. I've been growing bonsai for like 20 years. I get it. And it's a simple technique of trimming. I went over it in my edible landscaping video, and I just talked to like 3 people this week about it. But the way it works is when you top a pepper plant, anything, but really we're talking about the pepper plant, the energy goes up, and then it hits where you cut it, and it says, oh crap, there is nothing there. I need to make more seed, which is what we harvest as the fruit. So it directs that energy back down, and then it causes the plant to back bud, which means along those stems, you will now get more and more buds that come up, and then you'll have a bushier plant. Otherwise, that plant's just going to go straight up, and it's going to be long and skinny. That's really it.
So I'm with you 120%. Excellent description, up to the point of it'll get long and skinny. That may not be what the plant does, but
without
I'm with you.
Topping it tends to get longer.
Yeah, I definitely believe there would be more height than width. It's probably a safe way that I describe it. Because I'm with you. I mean, I probably accidentally topped off, which is quite literally cutting the top of that plant off.
That's all it is.
Topped off pepper plants, like by accident, because I'm pretty clumsy in all facets of my life, including gardening. So I'm definitely with you there. The only pause I have, and when you hear and see people do this, they're like, this absolutely produces a bushier plant and in turn produces more veggies. I'm always kind of putting that up against this idea of how long is my season to grow anyway? So I've not done a garden experiment when it comes to topping off peppers, so I can't share that experience here. I'm not sure which team I'm on just yet. I'm kind of thinking about it.
I did it last year. I did the experiment.
Okay. So the experiment is one pepper plant that you didn't top off, another that you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I did that with jalapeno and a lipstick pepper that I grew, and I got about triple the amount of jalapenos, and the plant was way more, and I actually did it by accident. So there's that. But then the lipstick pepper was the same idea. It got a lot bushier. I probably got about twice as much peppers off of it, but it just created a lot more buds on it. So
compared to peppers that you didn't do that for in your same garden?
Right, in the same garden, like right next to each other. So it was like I said, it was an accident. It's not like I was like, oh, I'm gonna like do this. But when I went out there at the end of the year, I noticed like, oh shit, I never topped it. That's why it was bad. So what I did is I let it grow to about, I have a whole video on this, but I let it grow to about maybe 8 to 10 inches, and then I clip the top of the plant. That's it. 2 seconds.
So
Job done.
Walk me through, when did your pepper plants go out into the garden, and then when was kind of the last of your peppers?
Oh, you're one of those. So
I forgot the cameras were on. I had to pull these hands back.
I know you did. I put my peppers out in about May 1st. I usually wait for it to get nice and warm. And then I get my last year I got my last flush of jalapenos in October, late October.
Okay.
And they were basically done. They had just been sitting on there for a long time, but the plants were like falling over. They were so packed. And I think on that last harvest, I probably pulled, I think I counted like 53 peppers off of it. So, and that was but to be frank and to be clear, that was like my big harvest off those pepper plants. Like my jalapenos, it was like all at the, I was getting a little bit here and there, enough, but I was upset because I was like, I'm not getting enough to make cans, but it kind of worked out that way.
In the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm asking those specifics, and your May through October, I would say is generally warmer than, let's say, my May through October, like in the north.
Yeah,
right? But that time frame is pretty close, but your plants are living in warmer weather during that time. And the reason why I bring that up is you can take these steps and kind of apply these techniques, but it's kind of that whole argument about, has the soil warmed up yet? You put your plant out there, but if the soil and or air temperature isn't warm enough for that plant to thrive, you just have a plant sitting out there. But what you've shared is pretty encouraging, right? So again, May through October, however many months that is, while you are a bit warmer than I am, it's worth probably an experiment in my garden as well this year.
Yeah.
To see what happens.
I'm just going to top from here on out. I'm topping. I had done it before and I knew that it was going to be successful, but I didn't realize the exact, like, this is how successful it could be.
Yeah.
So it worked out in my favor.
Nicely done.
So yeah, topping peppers. And so don't look at peppers as suckers. They're not really suckers on peppers. You know what I'm saying? They're actually, each new shoot is a chance to get a new bud on a pepper. And the more leaves you have, the more energy it can accept, the more energy it takes in, which is light, the more sugars it produces, the more roots spread out, the stronger the plant, and the more it can send back up into that plant in order to bud and get more and more. So that's where we want to go. And I want to say, in true Ben and Batavia fashion, it looks like this is going to have to be a two-parter.
What are you talking about? We got up to 20 minutes. You forgot my new guidelines.
We ain't even started talking about suckers yet. Let's just finish on the peppers, and then the next one we'll go on to suckers. How's that?
Actually, good. Is that an audible? Is that what they're calling it? Not to be confused with the app. But when you
I immediately thought of the app.
Yeah. Isn't that what they call it in football? He's calling it an audible.
I think so.
That's what
you're
doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can see why it would be confusing, though. You know what I mean? Do you?
Yeah, I can definitely see why it's confusing, and especially when, which we, again, are going to do a part 2 for the tomatoes, but the method you use to manage these two activities are very different. And it's quite, like, there's some concern if you're asking me to go off and just cut the top of my plant. Like, that doesn't feel natural, right? It feels like the wrong thing to do, but I can understand. And that's the reason why I can understand why, she and I'm sure others have that question, is this really necessary? So it sounds like our default is you don't have to do anything, right? However, you have seen, and I've heard others report, and you've seen yourself, better results when you do take that step for topping off. And what did you say, by the time the plant gets 8 to 10?
Yeah, about 8 to 10 inches or so. Once it's nice and strong and it's been in the ground. And I mean, sometimes if I'm going to leave them in the pot longer, like after I up pot them, I'll leave them in the pot longer. And then at that time, I may go ahead and top them before I plant them out if I have enough time for the plant to actually recover. But when I'm repotting the stuff that I grow myself, I'm not doing anything to the roots that would stress it out. So I'm not fluffing the roots out or anything generally. I'm not really digging up in there because I've grown them from seed. I know what's going on in the pot, so I can kind of put it in and plant it. But just to put it to, I want to put it to you this way. I have a tree that I just got, right? I just got a trident maple tree, and I'm growing it for bonsai, and it's about 4 inches in diameter. It's like 30 years old or whatever. I'm going to grow it this year, and next year I'm going to cut 2/3 of the tree off completely, and then it's going to back bud, and then I'll regrow it. So it's the same process, and most plants are the same way. So I'm going to do the same with my blueberries because I want to be bushier, all these things. And when we get into tomatoes, it's the same idea with tomatoes. You're just redirecting energy, but it's not necessary. Let's be quite honest. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough. And
there's
I feel
still
like
an opportunity for success from your plants and in your garden without taking the step.
For sure. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, I mean, I don't do it, because I feel like the problem is when we go onto social media and we listen to podcasts, not the Backyard Garden podcast, hopefully. But and as far as I know, we don't really talk about, like, harp on it much. And if we do, I feel like it's just like this conversation, like, you can, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
But when you go and you read, there's the language is you must. You know what I mean?
You should
and
be, yeah.
You should be. And I don't feel like that's a healthy way to talk about it.
Yeah. I also think that in situations like this, it's kind of like there's a time for it all, right? Like, so she described herself as a new gardener, and it's not to say that you need to follow the path that I did as a gardener. That's not my intention. It is, you don't have to do all the things at the same time or all at once. So if, let's say she has 6 pepper plants let's just pretend 6 pepper plants. She could decide that, all right, she wants to understand and learn how these 6 plants grow naturally. Maybe next year she tops them off. Maybe she's like, the heck with it. I understand the concept. I get it now. I'm going to go ahead and top them off this year. The only pause that I have about any of that is, again, kind of that control group, right? So that's the reason why I was pressing to say, was there another jalapeno pepper plant there that you didn't do that with, right? Because when you kind of start off with these additional steps and you apply them to your garden, you never kind of know, like, is that really helping, or is it the placebo peel, right? You know?
Right.
Or is it really going to produce something different? Now, at the same time, I mean, if there's an opportunity for you to get more out of your garden, why wait? So I can dig it either way.
Well, I'm 100% comfortable trimming a plant and redirecting energy. Like I said, I've been doing it for years, and then even in the vegetable garden, like, you can see it. So I'm completely comfortable with it. I think that in a perfect world, if I had a longer growing season, I can tell you what I would do is I would top the plant, and then each one that comes off, I'd top those and continuously bush. If I had like another 2 months of growing, I probably would do something like that, but I don't. So therefore, it's important to limit, because you don't want to stress your plants out. It's like, you don't want to trim it and then trim it again, and then the next day come trim it, and the next day you want to, like, do it, let it rest. And then maybe you come back again and do something, but...
Or if I'm planting my potatoes, peppers out in May, oh, wouldn't that be something? And now I'm getting to the end of my season, and it's, let's say, September. I'm not going to top that plant off at that point. It's not going to do me any good, because my plants are going to be done by the end of October. But if I'm one of those folks that are in the super warm climates where, basically they're treating some things like peppers as perennials, that plant's surviving to the next year, there could be something there,
Yeah, of course. And then you just keep doing it. So... and I said May, but this year it looks like I'm probably going to be about a week or 2 ahead of time, because it's been warm.
Interesting. It's officially, based on my favorite timeanddate.com.
If you run timeanddate.com, please reach out to the Backyard Gardens podcast. We would love to advertise, because we already do it for free all the time.
So March was officially colder for 2022 than it was for 2021. And that's all I'm saying.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. We continue to get freezing temps looking back from the second half, like the 15th forward, where we were pretty, and I'm talking about highs. The high was like 32 degrees Fahrenheit, where, while we still were dipping down pretty cold in 2021 in March, we absolutely still had consistent warm days. So I don't know what that's going to mean for, like, as we're in April now, but
time will tell.
I'm rolling with it.
So look, everybody, let me tell you one more thing. When you top that plant, if you decide to do so, at the exact same time you do that, if you have flower buds, pull those first flower buds off, and it'll redirect that energy even more into producing more. That's all I got to say. And that is a practice that I have done for many years on these, is eliminating that first flush of buds. And everybody's like, oh, why? It hurts. It's, because I know that I pull 3 off, but then in 2 weeks I have like 8 or 9 on each stem. So I'm getting a lot more peppers that way. Yeah, and that is something that I do recommend doing.
And additionally, that plant, if you're at the point where you're considering topping it off and it's kind of at the beginning of the season, that plant may not be large enough to basically nurture those additional peppers, right?
That's right. You want the strongest plant.
I'm all in the stores looking at plants pulling off buds, trying to save people.
That's right. Just going in there and just picking them. So, all right, everybody, that's it. We're going to come back, and then we're going to do tomato suckers. It just didn't make sense to do them together. So you get a 2-banger for this listener question. We will see you next week talking about tomato suckers. We love you guys. Check all the links below. Hook us up. Let's help support us. Keep it real.
See ya.
This episode is proudly sponsored by The Garden We Share from North South Books. It's an inspiring new picture book written by Zoe Tucker and illustrated by Juliana Swaney, the #1 New York Times best-selling illustrator of We Are the Gardeners by Joanna Gaines. This beautiful book celebrates the friendship between a young girl and an elderly woman as they plant seeds in a community garden alongside friends and neighbors, waiting for the seeds to flower. A great gift for all ages, on sale spring 2022 at a bookstore near you or online. Please visit northsouth.com for more information. To everything, there is a season in this beautiful book about treasured memories in gardening. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Please follow us on YouTube at Backyard Gardens TV,
Instagram at Backyard Gardens TV, over on our website, backyardgardenstv.com, and then we have Patreon at Backyard Gardens.
And don't forget to check out our links below to help the show. Thank you so much for joining us as we learn to grow and grow for change. Cut.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the Backyard Gardens podcast.
If you like what we're doing and you want to continue to support the podcast, head over to our Patreon page to sign up.
You can also make a one-time donation using PayPal. Both of these links are in the description.
With your support, we can continue growing and helping others in their gardens. See ya!
If you guys want some Backyard Gardens gear,
go to the link below and check out our t-shirts, mugs, pint glasses, and other gear.
All purchases go towards helping to support the show, so thank you so much in advance, and we hope you enjoy. We want everybody to have a garden, and we're going to give you a chance to win free seeds every month.
Head over to backyardgardenstv.com and enter your email address to be entered in all of our giveaways.
Good luck!
We want you to be a part of our gardening community. DM us a picture of your garden at Backyard Gardens TV on Instagram, and we will share it with our listeners.